After the past almost 3 years of doing camping and road trips with my Tesla Model 3, I've really put my charging kit through its paces and learned a few things. First, the mobile connector. It is absolutely mandatory in my opinion. Without it, you can't plug into campsites, Airbnbs, or anywhere else off the beaten path that's not a dedicated EV charger. On the Tesla mobile connector, the ability to swap the connector heads is absolutely invaluable, and mine came with 2 connectors. The first one is a NEMA 1450. It's the big honkin' 240 volt 50 amp outlets that you see stuff like stoves plugged into. And you know what? I really thought I'd get some use out of it, but the entire almost 3 years I've owned my Model 3, I've never used it, not once. Now, I know that campgrounds in the US do have them at RV sites, but none of the ones that I've been to here in Canada have, Ontario specifically. It's still worth it to have though. The other connector head it came with is for a standard wall outlet, and this one I actually wound up using a lot more than I thought I would. Usually when I'm staying in an Airbnb, they only have standard wall outlets to plug into. Now, it's only going to charge my Model 3 about 2% an hour on a 60 kilowatt hour battery, but it's a lot more worthwhile than you think. Just plugging in overnight is good for about a quarter charge, which when I drove to Halifax for a couple weeks with my wife, it was enough to do our daily tourism stuff. I think the entire time we were out there, we only needed a fast charger once. Other than that, the standard wall outlet actually managed to get us by just fine. The other time I use the standard wall outlet charger head is when I'm winter camping, because sometimes I can't park the car close enough to the power post. And in that situation, I have to use an extension cord, which is an absolutely useful thing to have, especially at those Airbnbs I was talking about, where the outlets are usually not anywhere close to the car. In one instance, we were staying in the basement apartment of a house with the door facing the backyard. I had to plug in inside, run the cord out the back door, up along the side of the house to the driveway. Now, people say not to charge using an extension cord, which is kind of dumb. You just need to make sure you have one rated for the amperage you're going to be pulling. Mine is 15 amp rated, and it's an outdoor extension cord. I should note though that sometimes when I'm charging with the extension cord, I only get about 9 to 10 amps instead of the usual 12, and I guess that's just efficiency losses from using a 100-foot extension cord. And it's not just useful for charging. When I'm camping, I use it to run shore power into my tent. So yeah, it's so worth to have. That's not all for my mobile connector adapters. I also have the TT-30 adapter, which I had to buy aftermarket, and that's basically a standard RV hookup, 125 volts, 30 amp rated, charges my car at about 3 kilowatts, or about twice what you would pull off a normal wall outlet. Now that sounds pretty slow, but if you pull into camp and plug in at about 3 to 4 p.m. at about 25%, I'm sitting on a full charge by about 9-10 a.m. the next day. I always use it when I'm out camping, and I highly recommend having one of these if you plan on camping with your Tesla. Another thing I use all the time is my J1772 adapter. I can't charge at home. I live in an apartment, so I actually have to use the level 2 chargers that are actually, thankfully, literally right across the street from me. And you can see how chewed up my adapter is because some of the J1772 stations out there are in really rough shape. One time I really had to chisel the damn connector off of the adapter. And then there was the other time I had a malfunctioning charger connector that started smoking. The adapter still smells like burnt plastic. I also have this 3D printed locking collar, which I always use because I don't trust people to not be jackasses. It's bad enough when I see EVs parking in charging spots all the damn time while not charging. It's a little bit of peace of mind for a little effort. The last thing in my charging kit is a cheapo CCS adapter, and I've actually used this thing somewhat frequently on trips. On road trips, if we make an unplanned stop at a rest station for a bathroom break, I'll plug into the CCS station there to top it up while we're there, might as well. I hear horror stories about these cheap ones. So far, I haven't personally had any issues. It never gets hot while charging, and that's probably due to the fact that my LFP Model 3 is capped at a peak of 170 kilowatts. The adapter says it's rated for 250 kilowatts, so I'm probably not pulling anywhere near enough amps to be concerning, especially deeper into the charging curve where it drops even more. Now, I don't regularly rely on CCS charging, but it does open up the ability to use basically any fast charger in North America. So at this point, I pretty much have my charging kit dialed in. I don't imagine there's going to be too much in the way of changes going forward. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm really interested in EV adventuring and overlanding, and I have some really cool plans for the future, so make sure you're subscribed if you're into that shit.